This coming Sunday is the 19th Sunday in Ordinary Time. We have been reading from Matthew's Gospel during this liturgical year. We continue that with this Sunday's Gospel reading. It comes from Matthew's account, chapter 14, verses 22 through 33. Let's take a listen. After he had fed the people, Jesus made the disciples get into a boat and precede him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowds. After doing so, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. When it was evening, he was there alone. Meanwhile, the boat, already a few miles offshore, was being tossed about by the waves, for the wind was against it. During the fourth watch of the night, he came toward them walking on the sea. When the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified. "It is a ghost," they said, and they cried out in fear. At once Jesus spoke to them. "Take courage, it is I. Do not be afraid." Peter said to him in reply, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." He said, "Come." Peter got out of the boat and began to walk on the water toward Jesus. But when he saw how strong the wind was, he became frightened, and, beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and caught Peter and said to him, "O you of little faith, why did you doubt?" After they got into the boat, the wind died down. Those who were in the boat did him homage, saying, "Truly you are the Son of God." What must the disciples have been thinking and feeling throughout this whole episode? The boat is being tossed about. It's nighttime. Jesus begins to walk towards the boat, but they think that it's a ghost. He tells them, "It is I." Peter summons the courage, gets out of the boat. The wind picks up. Peter becomes afraid, starts to sink. Jesus reaches out his hand and saves him. The other disciples are watching this happen. Everything probably was happening rather quickly. They were certainly frightened because the boat was being tossed about, and they would have been fully aware as fishermen of what could happen. A boat gets tossed about like that. Maybe it would sink. Maybe it would be a case of life and death for them. Seeing a ghost then adds to the kind of strange quality of that night. It would frighten any of us. They would certainly have been startled to find out that the ghost was really not a ghost, but was Jesus himself. And maybe some of the disciples were ready to jump in the water as Peter did. Maybe some were holding back, but they're watching. They're watching. Might have been unsure, maybe skeptical, maybe they were already paralyzed by fear. And then Peter, who the disciples might have looked at as a kind of leader, kind of hero for them, well, they were hoping for the best, that he would be united with Jesus. And then he starts to sink. The hope that those disciples on the boat might have had would have been dashed. Then Jesus reaches out, grabs Peter by the arm, and he asks Peter, and by extension asks those other disciples, and further asks us, "Why did you doubt?" The passage certainly has a great deal for us to reflect upon. We can think about the storms in our lives, not literally the storm in the clouds or the weather, but what does toss about my life, work, family, personal struggle? When Jesus tells us to trust in him, to come onto the water, how easy is it for us to get out of the midst of that struggle we're having and to make our way to Jesus, even in the midst of what can seem chaotic? Can we trust in him? We need to muster up the courage, for sure, then maybe like Peter, even when we've done that, the fear comes back, the winds get stronger. I might be overwhelmed by whatever the challenges are that I'm facing. And then Jesus grabs me by the arm, grabs me to keep me above the water. Our faith can be diminished by the events in our lives, those challenges and struggles and difficult situations that we experience at home or school or really anywhere else. And yet, in the midst of even those events, Jesus asks us to trust him, to trust him. The gospel is a reminder that Jesus is with us in all of the storms of our lives, ready to catch us. Let the gospel then fill your week. See you in church. For now, God bless.